Welcome, all ye nerd vengers and nerds in general, to another community stream here on the Den of Nerds Live. Tonight, we are talking all about DC, the live-action multiverse. Very interesting things have been going on in the news with leaks, reports, different things with regards to DC and their live-action multiverse. And as always, what we want to know is what do the fans think about such things? And that's why we do these community streams. And so I'm going to bring in just a minute here, Mr. Tony, Anthony, to ask me the hard-hitting questions. And I also want to know what he has to think about these things. And I feel like I'm going to get some Battinson questions right off the bat, which I'm not really looking forward to. But that's all good. And so, of course, we put the link in chat for anybody that wants to hop on in. And I see a bunch of awesome people, as per usual, in the chat. What's going on, everybody? Hope you're having a good night. And let's go ahead and bring Tony on. Tony, what's going on, man?
Hey, Josh. How are you today?
I'm good. It's been kind of a long day, but I'm doing good, and I'm ready to talk some DC.
Why are you against Batson's Batman? Why are you not a fan of him as Batman?
Oh, here we go. Right away with the Battinson questions. So honestly, I reserve the right to, once I see it, be like, oh man, this Batman's awesome, right? But for now, it doesn't look like they're doing a lot of stuff with that Batman that I'm really gonna be into. Like, I absolutely love Batman. I have been watching so many different DC things lately, and in every single thing that I watch that's DC that has Batman, Batman is absolutely awesome, right? And I just read Death Metal #1, I think is what it's called. And it has Batman in it, obviously, has a couple of Batman, and he's awesome. But the Batman that I see with Robert Pattinson is sort of like they're trying to retell the Batman story, and it looks like they're trying to tell it in a way that is really realistic and sort of down to earth, and that's just not the Batman that I'm a massive fan of.
If I give you the fact that you're a little bit worried that you're not gonna like it, but let's say they're going back to the detective portion where they're not fit. That's why Pattinson's going really skinny, or because honestly, I think that's what these other Batmans have missed or lacked the past few years.
The detective aspect.
Yeah, the detective aspect. So, don't you agree?
I mean, the detective aspect is definitely a part of Batman and the Batman mythos for sure. It's been underutilized. I think there was one moment in the Christian Bale Batman where he puts the bullet back together to get the fingerprint. So that was kind of like it. And then I think they tried to do it a little bit in BVS.
Batman
where,
versus Superman.
Yeah, where Bruce is like uncovering the photo, you know what I mean, and he's like discovering stuff about the Justice League and all of that. So they've done it before, but I'm not necessarily talking about the detective aspects of Batman when I'm talking about that. It's that it is tied to his intellect, but it essentially is that like a lot of people, Batman doesn't have a superpower, right? Like everybody says that, but his intellect is actually his superpower. I think he's like
the reason why I'm saying they're not the past few Batmans, besides that, what you're talking about, besides those two aspects,
yeah,
they've made him to seem more like a brute. The past few Batman movies,
definitely with Batfleck for sure, yeah,
and as well as Christian Bale's Batman, they were more focused on that aspect, the physical aspect of him. Mm-hmm. He's not a dumb brute, but do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I totally do. I don't think that it's necessarily, that's not, like I said, that's not really necessarily my biggest hang up with it. It's the fact that, like, so the Batman that I know from the comics, right? He is a dude that literally learned every single martial art that there ever was on the planet. And that is, of course, like really physical, but it's also like part of his mental. You know what I mean? Um, in a lot of different like things that happen in the comics, even among gods standing in the Justice League, Batman is still someone that is deferred to make big decisions, even take major action.
Even
So
though apparently I thought Martian Manhunter was smarter than Batman.
they might be on similar intellect levels, but I don't think, like strategically wise, I don't think that Martian Manhunter is as smart as Batman. But I think John's pretty smart. John is also like obviously really important, strong. He's a telepath and things like that. But I don't think that he has the mind that Bruce has. Like Bruce has a mind that's like a weapon. You know what I mean? Like it's
I
really
think
crazy.
when I look at Batman, he reminds me of a like hardcore military, like a special forces guy for the military, like a a ranger or a seal.
Yeah, yeah. In a lot of ways, like he's that disciplined, right? And he like represents that level of discipline. Because in some ways, like Bruce is the epitome of what a human being is capable of. If like a human being where he in some way in this way he's a lot like Lex Luthor actually, where he sort of represents this idealized version of everything that a human can be without sort of pushing past those human limits by ways of like superpowers or stuff like that, right?
Yeah,
So
because that's what Superman is. He's the epitome of perfection, but with superpowers.
correct. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, in a lot of ways, like Superman is an ideal that humanity will never achieve. So like he in that way is more like a Masonic figure or like a
A god.
god. Yeah, yeah, like a god to us,
He's
so to speak.
you like a Thor or a Odin in
Yeah,
Marvel.
yeah, yeah, for sure. I see Mike says Mr. Terrific is intellectual equal. I don't know that to be 100% true, but I believe it.
I would compare Bruce's intellect to Doctor Manhattan.
Well, I mean, maybe. I mean, so like Dr. Manhattan is essentially at one point becomes sort of omnipotent. I think Bruce, there's a couple of different times in the comics that maybe Bruce has reached omnipotence. One would be when he had the White Lantern ring, and then another would be when he was on the Mobius chair. I believe those are 2 points in the comics where maybe Bruce was as smart as Dr. Manhattan, but I'd say for the most part, nah. Dr. Manhattan's probably just by way of like knowing everything. You know what I mean? That's what I would say.
Yeah, and the reason why I'm asking, since we're talking about the multiverse, why don't we cast? I know you're not a big fan of the Pattinson Batman. Let's do a Justice League for that Batman universe.
Yeah, I mean that would be cool. I don't know. I mean that would sort of be up to Matt Reeves, I believe. But let's bring old Trev from the Chat Boys for Life into here as well. Trev, how are you?
Hey, Trev.
I'm good, brother. How you doing?
Good, man. Good. You heard some of the stuff that we're talking about. Do you have any input on the Batman talk, the Superman talk, the Pattinson talk, as it were?
Well, what you guys talking about? You guys are talking about like the smartest guy, right, or something like that. Like,
yeah, well, we talking about like Bruce's intellect, that sort of thing. But Tony was just kind of getting to the question of could we see a Justice League in the Batman with that kind of a vibe
in Reeves and Pattinson's Batman?
Yeah, probably not right
you
away.
We'll see the Justice League in that. Is that what you're saying?
Well, that's what Tony's question is, I believe, right?
Yeah,
I kind of see how that. I kind of have to see how that first plays out.
That's what I'm talking about. They're setting up a multiverse, like
right. Then there would be a Clark Kent in that universe with Robert Pattinson's Batman. That's kind of what you're getting at, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. That would be. Yeah, that would. I mean, potentially. Yeah. It seems like that is the way they would do it. But there's nothing that says that, like, for instance, in the Robert Pattinson, let's call it Earth Twilight, or sorry, like Earth Pattinson or something like that, right? So maybe in that world or in that universe, Clark never left Krypton. Maybe Krypton was totally bloated up, you know?
Sorry.
Yeah, it could be that way.
When you said Earth Twilight,
I think having like where it's going to be multiple universes. Like, and if they're showing them, like, let's say one in the theater, one on HBO Max, one on.
Yeah.
You could have the animated one be one as well, right? For all intents and purposes, like they just had the, like, hey Barry, do a flashpoint at the end of Apocalypse War, right? Hey Barry, do a flashpoint, restart the universe.
Well, that's the thing. Like, I kind of wanted to take it there as well, because one of my things was it's so wild that, and by the way, like, super weird thing. Does anybody know any clarification on the Justice League Rebirth scoop? Because I've heard weird things, and Humberto Gonzalez actually commented on the video we did, and I know he's a subscriber or whatever, and he was like, nope, with an exclamation point. And I was just like, what's that mean, bro? So I don't know. I'll have to probably look into that a little bit more and then kind of talk about it.
What's the difference between the New 52 Justice League and the Justice League Rebirth Justice League?
There were, well, I didn't read Justice League during Rebirth, but I know that there were a couple of big changes in the world. Number one, that Wally West came back. I think that was the biggest one, was like the orange-haired Wally West.
He's the one. Like, there was the button, right, where Barry pulled Wally out of the, like Walter or Wallace, whichever one it is, like the one that's from the post-crisis universe anyway.
And I think
they pulled him out of the time stream, right?
Yeah, and there was some really weird stuff going on with Superman around that time as well, and I don't remember how that actually affected the character. I think like two Supermen merged or something. It was like really wild.
Well, the New 52 Superman became like an energy Superman, and then they had like the post-crisis Superman, who they said was in hiding the whole time. So like the Superman from like the 90s, like the 90s Superman that fought Doomsday, the 90s Superman in Infinity Crisis, where he.
You two, if you guys would agree with this, instead of having a male Superman for Pattinson's Batman, why not use Kara Zor-El, Supergirl, for Pattinson's Batman? I
mean, I want to see Kara in like the Snyderverse and stuff too, though. So like, she's the thing is, I think they're going to let Snyder do.
Or Connor. How about Connor?
Yeah, Connor would be great. Like, Connor would be great. But I think that in some ways that those characters work better in a more bombastic universe. Like what Reeves is doing is very like grounded, and it looks really like realistic and gritty. So I don't know how well. I mean, Connor would probably play pretty well, but like Kara would just be like, she would just be dominating.
Man of Steel Superman would fit perfectly with that if they're going gritty like that.
You think the Man of Steel?
Or why don't they do Matrix then, though?
What's up?
Why don't they do Matrix then? The Supergirl from the 90s was like a protoform. Was just like a.
Was it like Red?
Creature that could just like adopt any form.
I'm not super familiar with that character actually. But
it's the one that was like in love with like the Lex Luthor when Lex Luthor cloned himself. And he had like red hair and a beard and everything.
I'm like, I have an image.
That was the Lex Luthor that was around while Doomsday was going.
Yeah, I don't know.
This is an interesting question, guys. Why? I have friends who are hardcore DC fans.
Yeah,
and they say the Man of Steel, specifically the movies, were a controversial thing with the hardcore Superman fans. Why was that?
I mean, I think there's a couple of reasons. Number one, mostly that he kills. I mean, at the end of the movie, like that Superman snaps Zod's neck. And I think that for most Superman fans, that's just not on the table, you know? So I think that's number one. I also think Pa Kent was sort of a interesting take. Pa Kent in most comics and in most shows is just kind of like supposed to just be kind of represented as a really kind, just warm man. And, Cal's father, you know, Connor's take on it was, or Conroy's take on it was pretty harsh.
I like the take on Pa Kent because when you look at him, he is from the perspective of a father trying to teach his son not to go in full bore all the time and think about what you're going to do before.
Yeah, but I think the reason that that's a big change up from the comics is that like Pa Kent, I think in a lot of ways wanted Clark to use his powers to help people. and the discussion of the world sort of not being ready for Clark and sort of like selfishly kind of hiding his son to protect him was not a part of the mythos from the comics. But I could be wrong. Trev, what do you think? Why do you think Superman fans hated it?
I didn't hate it, and I'm a big Superman fan.
Me too.
I know some people hated it just because I think you're comparing it to the Brandon Routh one that came 7 years before that, and obviously with that you got the Christopher Reeve Superman, right? Which was in movies, Superman's always been kind of prior to Man of Steel. Superman's always been portrayed as the 50s, 60s, 70s Boy Scout, right? Like he was that character, and that's because Brandon Routh's Superman was a continuation of Christopher Reeve's Superman, right? So you're getting that version of Superman, whereas Man of Steel is almost like the beginning of the post-crisis Superman, which is the 87 John Byrne redo and all that kind of stuff. That version of Krypton was more akin to John Byrne's World of Krypton from the 87 miniseries.
Yeah.
Like it's not.
This is an interesting
Which
question.
did influence the Donner stuff as well, which I think I recently rewatched the Donner stuff, and there's so much Donner mirroring in Man of Steel. It's crazy.
Guys, but
yeah.
When you look, did it take you guys a while to see Chris Evans as Captain America? Because honestly, when I look at him, I see him more as a Superman than Captain America. And
you're kind of going all over the place with your questions. So like, why are you talking about Chris Evans now?
No. But I know. This is DC, but this is.
You got a lot on your mind, Tony. You got a lot on your mind.
Look, Tony is the man with a million questions. So look, fire away, Tony.
I'm sorry that I'm going all over the place, guys.
No, it's all good. As far as your question for Chris Evans, I always saw him as Cap. I never had a hang up with that. I don't know if you did, Trev.
No.
Did you see him as Human Torch? When you're watching the first Captain America movie, you're thinking, man,
I really didn't. I don't know. I really didn't. I felt like especially because he's for the first part of the movie, he's skinny as hell, right? So you don't have and then when he gets big, it's kind of like a big reveal.
No, that's why I'm saying. Like, originally, people when they first casted him, they never saw him as his character, his personality fit.
Everybody, well, that's why castings are like fans are always kind of mixed about castings. Like they were about Affleck, they were about Brandon Routh, they were about Henry Cavill, they were about Gal Gadot. Like it's all their fans are all over the place. Like
fans are fans,
just because you like something or I like something.
Yeah,
and we're fans of that property doesn't mean that every fan will like a certain property. But you're trying to appeal to the masses as best you can, and sometimes castings are hard. To get to
people overreact.
Yeah, no, that's true.
Like hardcore fans of the comics expect it to be exactly like the comics. They can't go exactly to the comics when you're doing movies for DC or Marvel, period, because you would have to. There's too much stuff in the comics that you can't put in movies because it would be either too violent or too like niche.
So Tony, let me ask you a question. I've got a million questions. Yeah. Now it's time to rapid fire at you. No, but my first question is, so there's a rumor, we just talked about it today in a video, that there's going to be another Justice League movie, and it's going to be different than the Zack Snyder Justice League movie that's going to be on HBO Max. So the question is, where should Henry Cavill's Superman exist? Should he be in only over with Zack Snyder, or should he come into this new Justice League movie? What do you think? Like, what should they do with Henry Cavill Superman?
Honestly, I would put him permanently on the Snyder cut, like the HBO Max universe. Leave him with that one and recast Superman for the Superman the Justice League they were talking about. You were talking about in today's stream earlier today.
So yeah, what do you think, Trev? Like, what do you think? Do you think that Cavill should stay over on HBO Max, or do you think he should be for this new Justice League?
It depends what they want to do. Like, it'd be weird if they cast all these different multiple Batman, and so you have Batman from different multiverses. But what if you did Cavill as just Superman's just Cavill through all of the multiverses?
That's what I was thinking. That was my next thought. Would
that be weird? Would that be weird?
It would be weird
if they did that,
but they could still pull it off. Like, so you're talking about, like, I guess what Spider-Man would call, like, what, stage 1 symmetry? Is that what he said?
Yeah.
So some of it's
something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So like some of it's the same.
Some of it's the same. Some of it's different.
Right.
Yeah.
Because the Batman thing is going to be inevitably different across the board. Right. Just because it looks like they're really going to milk the Batman cow, as they should.
And if you were to go to the MCU for a second, part of my thing, but like a similar thing with Spider-Man and Spider-Verse, say,
right?
Are they going to do, like, would they do Tobey Maguire, or would they just do Tom Holland as all the Spider-Man?
That's a really interesting question. You know, honestly, and like this kind of spins into some thoughts that I had about Marvel, which was this really does feel like DC is trying to beat Marvel to a punch. Because, you know, we were talking
it's always
about
that way. It's always
right. But we were talking about this with regards to Secret Wars with Marvel, the possibilities of this and bringing back, you know, the
Toby.
Fox X-Men, Toby, all of them, right? And so now it looks like DC's going to beat Marvel to the punch of that. Do you see a world in where Feige turns it and was like, no, we've got to announce this ASAP or something like that? What do you think?
I don't think so. I don't think anything's going to upset Kevin Feige's plans. Like, I think he's probably got it set in stone. What's DC's going to do is what DC's going to do.
Yeah.
Like, it's,
damn.
I think it's honestly going to be.
I think they're going to use for the MCU Spider-Man specifically. I think they might use Miles.
Any particular reason why?
Because honestly, I don't think Fox specifically is going to allow Tom Holland to. Maybe
Fox has no say in anything anymore.
You mean Sony?
Yeah, Sony. My mistake.
Yeah.
Sony won't allow Spider-Man to be in the MCU as his own standalone movies. That's why I say use Miles Morales as a standalone Spider-Man for the MCU and stuff like that.
Yeah, I just don't know about that. I think Feige.
Universe, you could have.
Well, I think Feige wants Tom Holland bad, dude. I think Feige really wants
Sony's
Tom
not
Holland.
Allowing that. That's what scares me. Sony's being like,
but we don't.
About it.
Yeah, but we don't know. We don't know the inner workings of that deal yet, and I think there's a lot of leverage still to be decided by.
Didn't Feige cast Holland? Isn't that
actually
the
rumor?
Holland,
the rumor is that it was actually Sony, I guess, that cast Holland. I'll have to double check that though. Yeah, I have to double check that. There's some stuff that that I actually operated under this one impression for a long, long time, and then you realize other things. Like it was actually Sony that was really pushing for Iron Man to be a big part of his character. You know what I mean? So it's
I just feel
weird.
Like they already had that kid from Iron Man. You can see what was on the writing on the wall. They were going to use that Iron Man 3 kid in the same role they used Spider-Man. If Marvel didn't get Spider-Man, that kid from Iron Man 3 was going to be Iron Lad and do the exact same things.
Yeah.
Like,
look at how good we are at staying on the DC topic.
You know how Marvel has issues with Sony where they own characters. Does DC have that issue where other movie companies own rights to characters?
Yeah.
And stuff like.
DC doesn't have that same problem that Marvel
DC doesn't. DC doesn't have that problem, right? Because Warner Brothers must. I actually don't know when Warner Brothers purchased DC.
I don't know off
Comics.
the top of my head either. But before Batman '89 was a WB movie.
Yeah, so they've had the whole catalog for a long, long time. I thought this was a DC exclusive channel.
DC exclusive channel. I see
that. Hey man,
yeah.
we're a DC channel now, as I tell the Godfather.
So yes, I did like Bat. I saw someone ask if I like Batfleck. I do like Batfleck.
New Gods?
What's up? Oh, what about New Gods?
Are they canceling, delaying that movie?
No, but what's beautiful about this is, and honestly, I hope that Ava DuVernay can just turn in a knockout New Gods movie, like an honest, just crazy, awesome New Gods movie. But
whose perspective do you think a New Gods movie would be from? Light Ray, like it'll be like the light side characters guaranteed. It'll be like High Father, Light Ray.
No,
or what's his name? Scott Free, I guess maybe. Like
I mean, it could be Free. It could be Free and Barda, and they could do because that Mr. Miracle comic was super
really good, yeah.
popular. Yeah,
and saying that, well, then didn't they race bend Scott Free into being like Norm Shiloh or Norm something or other? I want to say something like that. I can't remember his name, but they made Scott Free black in the comics for a while too, like the Grant Morrison.
Oh, really?
Seven Soldiers. I think.
Know
right?
That. Well, the Tom Taylor, or maybe it's not. Was it? I don't remember if it was Tom Taylor or not. It was one of the Toms, I think. But the newest version, I think he was white. I'm not 100% sure though.
No, but
in the New Gods lineup, does the New Gods have an equivalent to Icarus from Eternals?
Sorta, yeah, sort of. I mean,
Light Ray is kind of like Icarus. You want to compare the Eternals to New Gods?
Yeah.
Light Ray is like the he's like a younger New God with lots of energy, controls light.
Yeah, they could show Orion. I don't really. That's a really interesting question. I don't know.
Who's the bug guy from Young Justice that bugged the forest?
I don't remember that dude, but I don't know. I hope that movie's good. But my point is, if it sucks, they now have a way to keep it out of the universe with other things that they want. They can just put it in a different part of the multiverse.
And they can do Young Justice too.
The New Gods exist. The New Gods exist outside the multiverse.
What?
Nope.
Yeah, they do. The New Gods exist outside the multiverse.
Do they really?
Grant Morrison showed. Have you ever seen that map of the multiverse and everything?
Yeah,
Grant Morrison shown, like Grant Morrison did
from Multiversity.
Yeah, the New Gods, like Darkseid, High Father, the Source Wall, and all that kind of stuff. There's only one of each of them.
Does DC have an equivalent to the not the Eternals, but the Celestials? Hello, Trev?
Trev, you're breaking up on us. Sorry, definitely I'm not going to admit that you're right. Take care, man. Sorry that you're frozen. I guess Trev's right, man. Damn it, we're stuck with whatever New Gods
DC
movie they make.
Equivalent to the Celestials?
I'm sorry.
What's that?
I'm
not frozen anymore, right?
What's up? You were breaking up on us, Trev.
Out of frozen.
You're frozen land, man. What was the question, Tony?
Does DC have an equivalent to?
I'm good. Am I still
Celestials
breaking up? Or...
Yeah, you are.
Yeah, you are, Trev. Trev,
what I was saying.
You're done.
I'll come back and see what.
All right, cool. No worries.
But you know how Marvel has the Celestials who created the Eternals and the Deviants?
Yeah.
Does DC have something equivalent to that where the new
Not that I can really think of. I mean, like there's stuff like the Source Wall. There are entities. There are the Guardians. So like the emotional spectrum has entities that embody all of the power from the different spectrums. There's the Anti-Monitor. There's like
Darkseid.
Yeah, there's Darkseid. There's there's like the Spectre. There's I forget what they call, like there's a name for like God in DC Comics. I forget what they call it. Trev might know. Trev, Tony's asking about what's God called in?
It's just God. It's just God.
Okay.
It's literally God. It's like God, and like because Lucifer's in the comic, like Lucifer and like Michael. Michael's like Michael and Lucifer, I think, are the second most powerful characters, and the Spectre.
Yeah, like Spectre's really, really strong.
Because Spectre's the wrath of God, right? And then Michael's like the Archangel Michael.
Yeah.
And Lucifer's like the fallen angel, Lucifer, the devil, or whatever, right? So
yeah.
Is Spectre supposed to be Ghost Rider?
No,
sort of. I mean, in some ways, yes, but he's like way.
Ghost Rider. Yeah, I guess he is like a lot like Ghost Rider. Now that
He's like Ghost Rider, yeah. But like Spectre, I would say Spectre's way more powerful. But I will also say that Ghost Rider is way stronger than people think. Dude, in the comics, Ghost Rider is a beast. But yeah, the Spectre is like
there's no
almost unbeatable
in DC like there is in Marvel.
No, not that exact equivalent. I don't think. No.
Because the Celestials are what created the Deviants and the Eternals, but in DC they didn't separate their new gods into Deviants or something similar to Deviants
No, they didn't do anything. By the way, I looked it up, Trev, and unfortunately you are correct. So whatever Ava DuVernay is making we're stuck with it, bro.
Yeah, well, again, like there was Grant Morrison had this 7 Soldiers of Victory that was continued into Final Crisis, the Grant Morrison Final Crisis, where he had Darkseid be like a crime boss on Earth. They were like restarting the New Gods kind of on Earth in a different format. Like, so if Ava DuVernay does New Gods, I assume it's going to be that version. It's going to be the Grant Morrison 7 Soldiers and Final Crisis version, where you're getting a more down to earth version, and again, like a black Scott Free or whatever, but a black Mr. Miracle, which I'm sure would be kind of what they want right now.
Darkseid, honestly, I kind of hope not to go all the way into the comics, like make him a pure villain, maybe make him a good guy in the beginning, that his outlook on the world starts warping when he's kind of like a Magneto character where he starts seeing the bad in humanity and then he turns into a villain.
That could be
Darkseid.
Yeah, I mean,
Darkseid is the personification of evil. Like he's the death god and everything else. Like he's like it's different in DC. It's different in DC, man.
In Gods and Monsters, though, I did like that twist that they put on it. Where have you seen that one, Trev? Gods and Monsters, the DC animated?
Probably when it came out. I saw it when it came out like 5 or 6 years ago, right? Or 4,
okay, well, it's on HBO. Maybe? It's on HBO Max. I recommend to everybody to go check it out because it's awesome.
You mean Crave in Canada, right? Crave in Canada. There's no HBO Max in Canada. It's Crave in Canada.
Well, look, man, I'm sorry for your country, man. You know, geez, get that shit figured out. Okay, anyway.
It's Bell Media, Bell Control. They have all the rights to all the HBO stuff, so they released it on their own streaming service called Crave.
What? Okay, well, anyway. Yeah. In normal places around the globe, folks, it's on HBO Max. And at Gods and Monsters, basically the treaty at the wedding is it's Highfather that betrays everybody, and he kills Darkseid and he kills everybody. And Highfather is
yeah. Now that I remember, now you say that, yeah. And that's why
Yeah, I was like, whoa, that shit's cool. So they can do something like that, but probably not.
They portray Highfather specifically as the villain, and
there's no way they would do that, though. There's no way.
You know about Gods and Monsters that I love? They cast the actor that plays Dexter as Batman, and he's a vampire killing the bad guys.
He's awesome in that movie. But
it's just funny, like the irony that they cast the actor that basically he's playing Dexter Batman, and it's
Dexter
just like
Batman.
Oh Jesus!
Dexter Batman.
I need to see that. Is it hilarious?
It's not. You watched Dexter, right? Like he's a serial killer and he's working with the police force.
I mean, I think that movie's awesome. To be honest, like Gods and Monsters is really cool.
Yeah.
But I've got more multiverse questions for Tony.
Sure.
Are you ready?
Yes, I'm ready.
Okay, now here's my question. Are they just going to do a new Justice League, or are they going to do a movie with the new Justice League that will connect all this multiverse stuff? I guess my point is, it really feels like they're doing a lot to set up this whole multiverse thing. They better actually do something with it.
Like a hub Justice League.
I go off your idea, what you were saying when we were talking a few streams ago, where they used Michael Keaton as a Nick Fury, where he starts recruiting each superhero from the multiverse in the Justice League Space Station or the Justice League Tower.
Yeah.
Yeah, is that what Keaton's going to be doing? You think recruiting people from different multiverses?
Dude, honestly, like if that is the case, I will freak the F out. You know what I mean? Like that would be so goddamn amazing. Because here's my thing. Why would you do all of the stuff that you're doing? All this movement behind the scenes. They're making so many headlines, so much stuff's leaking out. They're obviously trying to sign a bunch of big names right now. I think they're going to get Keanu back to be Constantine too.
As Constantine? Well, yeah, I heard that, yeah.
Yeah.
Like the J.J. Abrams Constantine or a different multiverse Constantine?
Both.
Well, what's happening with Keanu and Marvel though? Is he
nothing?
Maybe nothing. That's just talk.
Keanu has turned down multiple Marvel roles.
He's a hot property, right, Tony? Like Keanu Reeves is really a hot property right now for people to want, right? Because of John Wick
and honestly, like this gets into some more discussion that's like it's not anti-Marvel by any means, but I actually see a world in which the sort of more stringent canon that Feige has put together could be thought of as something that's holding them back, especially if a lot of the what's up
or backfire on them.
Yeah, in a way backfire, because if you think about it, like because things are so connected, okay, they can't release stuff out of order. They have to be very careful with how they release stuff. And because they only have so many appearances of these actors, the stories we get with these different actors is going to be very sparse, I think, when you turn around and realize that like DC is having 3 different Batman stories, maybe multiple Supermen, and just all sorts of live action stuff, where Marvel, especially now that they've taken over television, there's the only stuff you're going to see is official MCU stuff.
Did they say they have another animated series planned after What If?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
I thought I remembered hearing that maybe.
Well, there's stuff that like ABC was working on. There's stuff that like different like Marvel Television was working on.
Because Feige's in charge of the Marvel Animation Studio as well now. Too,
correct. But he just took that over. So there were things that were in production, like the Hellstrom show and different things like that.
Avengers Assemble, that Avengers cartoon was probably
there's stuff like that was sort of on the slate before. But ultimately, I mean, what do you guys think about that? Could that actually happen where all of a sudden, because I was just thinking about this, right? We all love Batman, and if you don't, you're wrong. And we want to see as much live action Batman as we can. We're going to have a smorgasbord of Batman stories probably in the next 5 to 10 years in live action, but we're probably not going to have any Iron Man like ever. You know what I'm saying? Like
with Robert Downey Jr.'s in that What If.
Well, yeah, and if he does,
Batman, we're oversaturating the market. That's what scares me.
That's always the concern. That's a concern. But even in that situation, like what if like even 2 out of 3 or 1 out of 3 of the Batman are awesome? You still have that, and if you really want it, you can check out the flavor. Otherwise, I'm just saying that like in some ways, I'm starting to think that the canon could actually be very restrictive. I mean,
remember though, if you think they're building the Secret War, Josh, they could be doing this. Like,
and that would be
Robert Downey Jr. could be in Secret War as one of the marshals or the whatever they're called, the governors of their area of Earth, right?
Doctor
Strange is the sheriff, right? Doctor Strange is the sheriff. Apocalypse is like so we could have like the Poe Dameron Apocalypse or whatever. I can't think of that actor's name right now.
Oscar Isaac.
Oscar Isaac. We could have the Oscar Isaac Apocalypse be same with the Magneto. They could be like the warlord leaders of their area. The same way that we could have Thanos come back too. Josh Brolin be back as
and that would be
plays a part in that Secret War. The way they adapt that, they could be bringing back actors from all over the place.
You do right, but you still see what I'm saying though, because then we're talking probably 5 to 7 years down the line at the earliest, and you're not talking about permanently.
No. Just be for like a 1 or 2 shot movie, right?
So what the Marvel Cinematic Universe is doing right now, we just learned today about because of the Florence Pugh thing, where she's going to take over.
I thought you were saying Pug earlier.
I would never mispronounce a big actress like that. I'd never do that. I'm a goddamn professional.
Josh will never. I agree. Josh is too smart for that.
Yeah, geez, Trev. Anyway,
I'm actually kissing your ass off.
I know. But yeah, I mean, but think about it. Then even after that, you're not going to have Iron Man ever again, right? They're turning over some
There's not
characters.
multiple Iron Man the same way there's multiple Batman and multiple
That's the thing.
Spider-Man.
Dude, that's the thing. They're going to turn over Black Widow, and it's going to be Florence. Then they might eventually turn over Spidey to Miles. They might turn over, Odinson to Valkyrie or somebody else.
Iron Man might be that Iron Lad character. That kid might still be Iron Lad.
Yeah, but that's maybe. Yeah, that would actually be pretty cool. But my point is, it's gonna end up in the long run being a hindrance on the content that I think people will want in some ways. Do you know what I mean?
If they want their movies to mash together with their different actors and all that kind of stuff, if they want that, because they might want like you said, not like you said, like I said earlier, we might get Tom Holland being 100 Tom Hollands and 100 Spider-Man, 100 Peter Parkers in a Spider-Verse movie.
Yeah.
Like 100 different Spider-Men could all be played by Tom Holland.
And honestly, in a way, I like the stringent thing how Kevin Feige is doing it.
Yeah.
What worries me about this thing we're talking about with DC, specifically the multiverse.
Yeah.
It's going to be either an oversaturation of one character or maybe too confusing for people to follow, too.
Yeah, I mean, that's possible. I mean, it just really depends. I think, the Batfleck, I mean, technically next year, you're going to have 2 big DC projects with different Batman. So you're going to have the Justice League Snyder
Cut. I thought
cut.
Batman was also going to be in the CW next year, too.
Very possible. I know he was name dropped in Batwoman, but did they show any of him, or was it
I just remembered hearing they were talking like,
dude, sign me all the way up. I
2
mean,
or 3
honestly,
months ago, they were talking about him making an appearance in the CW universe, right?
Yeah, that would be
epic. Shows connected to the DCEU at all?
Through the multiverse, they are. I mean,
definitely. We just saw Grant Gustin, the 2 Flashes,
and that was done by the studio, man.
And also, how did that happen in the comics? That also happened in the comics first with the 2 Flashes being together. Barry Allen and Jay Garrick, right?
So, do you think they're gonna Flashpoint this thing and then rebirth this thing? Like, are they going all out on this? Like, I'm just like,
and matching it with the animated universe too. That's why they did the Flashpoint there.
That's why Justice League Dark is going. Right?
Actually, I think
Constantine is very important to some of that crazy stuff that happens. I mean, we just watched Apocalypse War. It's epic, dude.
The guy who voiced the Constantine in the animated universe is the live action
Matt
Constantine.
Ryan. Yeah,
from the CW and the NBC.
He loves playing Constantine, dude.
So what if we get him?
I would flip it
Keanu.
around.
I'd love
maybe a couple other guys.
Yeah, man. I'd love both of them. What's up?
I wouldn't do Flashpoint first. I would do the
Rebirth?
Justice League Rebirth first.
Well, we already know they're not going to do that, though.
But if Flashpoint is resetting something, just say the names, Tony. Flashpoint, Rebirth. Like Rebirth naturally takes place after Flashpoint.
You know what?
You wouldn't do a Rebirth before Flashpoint.
I thought a lot about it, and I'm with Tony on this. Actually, I think they should delay Flashpoint.
Yeah,
and hopefully they do, and give someone else the New Gods. That's all I'm saying.
What's happening with that too?
What is happening with that?
Maybe we get a giant dark side, a la that Oprah in Wrinkle in Time.
Oh Jesus! Oh Jesus!
Oprah Darkseid.
I'm not a fan of her work. No offense, Ava. No offense, Ava DuVernay.
To watch that Wrinkle in Time, like I forced myself to watch it, like last year.
Yeah,
and it was bad. Like, but it was.
I gotta be honest with you. I don't even think Selma's that good. People like love Selma, and it's obviously a really like cool, emotional movie, and it's like great, but it's not.
Isn't she like in charge of something with the Oscars now too? Like in charge of like she's a member of like the Oscar, like not the Oscars like the itself, but like the.
It doesn't matter. Hollywood's burning down. It's all over for them. We're the Oscars now. We're the Oscars now, Tony. Go ahead, Tony. What's your question?
Yeah, like I was saying, wouldn't honestly, what's happening with Ezra? Realistically, they can't do Flashpoint if they can't do the Ezra.
Let's be clear. Josh talked about this the other day. Ezra Miller's not going anywhere. They're just putting that right underneath the carpet. Nobody cares anymore. Like it's just like it's. Otherwise, it would have been done already. Like
sweet.
So you don't think that can affect like that?
Because the outrage has already died down, Tony. The outrage has already died down. Like it's already like it's not as big as it was a month ago, a month and a half ago.
So you don't.
Dude, it is funny.
Black Lives Matter and the protests kind of.
It did. It's really funny
like
though
it
that
doesn't matter anymore.
He got so lucky with that too, because like dude, like there's no way around it. It looks horrible.
Yeah, but nobody cares anymore.
I mean, people care, but it's just not something that caught fire for whatever reason. Like it's kind of crazy to me, you know. Like I honestly,
I think
am a little shocked.
It looked not real when you're kind of first watching, and then you hear it is real, and it's like,
yeah, it's just a bad angle.
Like,
I guess.
Why would a guy do that? Like, why would he do that?
He was obviously wasted.
Yeah, no, that's what. Won't that actually hurt DC in the long run if they keep a guy who was accused of domestic violence?
Won't it hurt?
I mean, don't we also have Amber Heard with that? They're talking about it in the chat. Amber Heard's same thing.
Is she? Oh, Amber Heard still got all her stuff too.
Yeah, she's still got it. Like it's also kind of nobody's really caring about that Johnny Depp Amber Heard stuff either, right? So
I mean, yeah,
it's not in the news anymore. Like no, like it cared a little bit, but it's not cared. It's not the same thing.
Yeah,
no, it's different. Honestly, I think domestic violence is different when it comes.
And domestic violence rates are way up during COVID too.
That's true. Yeah, I mean, it is different though. I mean, this is like these are fans. Like honestly, like imagine being his agent or his PR dude or whatever. And someone's like, so there were some fans in Iceland during the quarantine. Ezra was naturally at a bar getting hammered. He got kicked out of the bar. Fans followed him to an alley, and he was filmed double hand choke slamming a female into the ground.
And then a month, 2 months later,
Ezra shouldn't be drinking alcohol.
Yeah, dude. Like, can you imagine? Can you fucking imagine? Like, that's ridiculous. Like, imagine getting that call. You know what I mean? Like, just
Ezra shouldn't be drinking alcohol.
How old is Ezra Miller? Like mid-20s, late 20s?
I don't know. Actually,
he's in his 30s. I think Ezra's older than me.
I'll tell you what, Trev. He's old enough to know better. That's for sure.
That's right. Well, I guess there's probably some kind of line about when you're drinking in Iceland. Maybe.
You know what? He's 27. They should just meme on this. You know what I mean? Like when he goes through Flashpoint, he should like find himself in Iceland during the quarantine and just be
having a beer. Some blondish girl that looks like the girl who chokeslammed.
This would be the best part. He runs up, right, and the whole thing's going on again, and the only thing he does is put a mask over the other, like himself.
Where was Aquaman? When Batman finds Aquaman in Justice League, where is he?
In a bar.
No. But I mean, where is he? Somewhere? Isn't he somewhere like in? Is he in Greenland or something?
Norway.
Like
Norway. I think it was like Norway or something like that. Yeah.
It'd be funny if that was Iceland.
Yeah.
Back to the DC stuff. What are you guys as DC fans worried that Marvel can steal both The Rock and Jason from
Who's The Rock going to play in Marvel?
Who would The Rock play in Marvel besides like Hercules?
The Champion, maybe the Champion.
He'd be awesome as the Champion. Actually, John Cena would be awesome as the Champion.
Because that'd be the brother with the Collector and like the Grandmaster. He'd be like their brother because he was one of the guys. He's the guy that had the Power Stone for a really long time in the comic books, anyway. The Champion, right? So
actually, The Rock would be Namor.
No.
Fanchexers Adam says Ezra should come. Oh shit! Damn it! No offense, June, but I'm trying to get to this comment here. Ezra should come out on stage of DC fandom and chokeslam Snyder. That would break the internet. Oh my!
And then back to the other comment, maybe wearing the Infinity Gauntlet.
Why not?
Oh, Jesus.
To be fair, Josh Brolin got arrested for domestic violence, and Disney Marvel still kept him on. Yeah, that's totally fair. I think Tony's absolutely right. Domestic violence is a little bit different. It is probably technically a little bit different, but it's still a bad look either way.
The Rock is way too big to play Namor, and Tony. But like, and also on top of that, he's
make him Namor. Actually, that would be amazing, dude.
Namor and Black Adam basically look exactly the same.
or
like face wise, basically look exactly as drawn in the comics.
As Namor.
The same.
Yeah. No, that would be awesome. Or make him Charles Xavier. I think we talked about this before. The Rock as Charles Xavier would be amazing, dude.
That would be like hilarious.
Very true as the president, right?
Yeah. Well, I would make him wear like some really like baggy shit and like have like a blanket over his legs in the chair and all that, right? And so you can't really tell. And then at one point in the movie, he just goes, I like a mental workout as well as a physical one, and just like gets up out of his chair, and he's the Rock. It would be amazing.
Or the Sentry. How about the Sentry?
He would be a cool Sentry. He'd be a better Hyperion.
I can't see it. If you guys can see it, by all means. I can see him maybe as like the absorbing man. If you want to cast him as someone, like the Rock is his personality. Like even as Black Adam, I'm gonna have a hard time seeing it because he's just
too nice
in his character. It's hard to watch him in movies because he's so much bigger than any role.
Yeah,
like just he himself is almost so much bigger than any role he goes in. Which is
I don't know.
It's really like Arnold. When you watch Arnold as Mr. Freeze in Batman and Robin, he's Arnold. He's not. You see him like he's like like it's not Mr. Freeze. It's Arnold.
The dinosaurs.
The Rock is on the same level as Arnold, like in the 80s and 90s. Like he's like his character
is slightly better of an actor than Schwarzenegger.
Yes, slightly better, but essentially playing himself in every role he's in.
Yeah.
I think what hurts DC in a sense with these big characters, these big actors specifically.
The Thing is a good choice. Sorry, go ahead. Go on, Tony.
Marvel can
in a suit,
overpay.
CGI in a suit.
They can overpay both Momoa and Johnson.
DC's got that AT&T money, Tony. DC just came in and was like, "Oh, really, Warner Brothers? You don't want to spend this money on the Snyder Cut?" And they were like, "Blap," and just sprinkled millions.
I wonder how much of the discount The Rock is giving them because he wants to play Black Adam. Like how much of a pay cut is The Rock taking being Black Adam? Because he wants to be that. He loves Black Adam.
Yeah, it would be great for his brand too. Well, I think he was literally signed, dude. I don't think it's like he had to maybe he had to renegotiate, but like I think he was signed before to do it.
No, but maybe he was. So maybe if he was signed for like a 2-picture, let's say 15-20 million, probably it's a big like he's losing money on the deal by being Black Adam as what he could probably make in another movie filming at the same time.
He could do like back end points or something like that.
And by the way, did the deal fall through with Amazon and Disney with Bezos trying to buy Disney and stuff like that? Did that deal fall through?
I don't remember when that ever really happened. I know there was some.
It was just Disney's stock was falling after something for a little bit, right? And after COVID started, and I think they were talking. Apple was considering. It was a rumor that Apple was considering buying them.
Yeah. I don't think Amazon was. And the thing is, Disney didn't really want that. I think Disney's pretty well protected now. I forget how exactly, but I think they either got some money or they got like guaranteed loans or something because I think things are actually pretty stable for Disney. Now, here's the thing.
Too big to fail.
Well, maybe not though. I mean, there's still we still don't really know what the F is going on. And like, dude, remember a couple of months ago when America wouldn't let other people in to our country? There's so many countries in the world right now that are not letting Americans in because our situation with COVID is just out of control. You know what I mean? So you really we just have no idea how all of this is actually going to play out. You know what I mean? So Disney could still potentially be in trouble. But they're holding strong right now. And honestly, like from my understanding is most of these companies, like the Fed has essentially told, they're just not going to let the economy crash. They'll print infinite money if they have to, essentially
that won't be good for you either.
Yeah. Well, it's honestly, it's a really weird idea.
That's what happened in like Venezuela, right?
Well, yeah, but I mean, honestly, that's been happening in the United States almost since we went off the gold standard. And the truth is, like, we're a little more resilient to it because something like 80% of world assets are held in American dollars.
Yeah.
So, like, you can kind of print as much American money as you want. Like, not like infinitely, but kind of.
So you're saying Disney won't have to be bought out by?
I would say I don't know. I would say not this year, not next year, but possibly the year after. But it would depend. Like some market forces would have to. Like I just really don't know.
Honestly, I think it would make more sense for Bezos to buy Disney because that would be like half of.
He also has to want to, right? Like it's not just like he's got $150 billion. Like what does he? He also has to want to buy Disney. Like you know what I mean? Like
yeah,
he's got $150 billion just off Amazon. Like does he necessarily need to diversify into Disney?
Or theme park?
Yeah, I think Apple is a much better fit. You know what I mean? I feel like Apple would have made a lot more sense because the technology and the hardware side from Apple could have been implemented in all Disney parks. It could even help out things like Disney Plus. There's a lot of opportunity there with Apple. I think there's a better crossover. Amazon is so. By the way, how do we get on this question? This is an interesting question, Tony. But yeah, I don't know. Amazon.
What about Sony's tech? Because if Marvel and Sony have an existing relationship, like Spider-Man PS4 going on the PS4 exclusive, speaking of which, that too.
Yeah, that would be really interesting. I don't know too much about that because I don't know a lot about Sony's. I don't really know a lot about Sony as a business, to be honest with you.
Yeah,
I think
don't know either.
Well, I think
other than the TVs and their games.
Yeah, but I think they have two
and
Sony,
some phones,
right?
I guess too. They got some phones, don't they?
Yeah. Oh yeah. But doesn't Sony have a North American division? Like, isn't there a Sony North America?
I think so. Yeah.
Sony is an
I imagine so.
company, isn't it?
What's up?
Isn't Sony an American company?
No,
it's a Japanese company.
Sony's a Japanese company, but Sony North America might technically be an American company. I'm not sure. I don't really know.
Oh,
just because they already have an existing relationship there as well,
yeah.
right?
I'm so sorry.
No, it's okay. What's up, Tony?
No. Yeah, like that's what I'm saying with specifically with these two big guys like Momoa and stuff. Aren't you guys worried that Marvel can actually outbid the contracts, like buy out their contract from DC?
They can't do that. Like they can't do that. What would have to happen is that Momoa would have to buy out his contract, and if Momoa was, it'd be a whole thing, right? Like it'd be like why if people start doing that, like you have to buy just like when you're buying yourself out of your phone contract, right? Like
right,
you're probably paying.
That's considered collusion, though. If a movie company buys out the rest of the remaining movie deal.
I don't think they view any actor as being worth that much to do, because to buy them out and then pay them on top.
Yeah, no, probably not.
Yeah, that's this isn't like collusion. You're thinking like the NBA or something, or the NFL. Like this isn't movie studios aren't like a league, right? Like where they have rules.
They do have a lot of stupid rules, though. A lot of like guild rules and shit like that. But
there's no actual collusion rule when it comes to the movie business in general.
I mean, there's all kinds of legislation and regulation, and there's also internal Hollywood like rules and regulation with.
There's monopoly rules too, though, right? Like if you control too, there's monopoly rules.
Yeah, well, I mean, honestly, like antitrust in America, especially over the last 30 years, has been pretty much a joke. Like, dude,
Microsoft,
ever since the trials in the 90s with Microsoft, it's pretty.
That guy didn't even say anything. That's the funny part.
Well, they're good. But yeah, like Google is technically just one subsidiary company of the Alphabet company. But I mean, they would. I don't think any of these big. I would love for these big tech companies to get broken up, but I don't think they're going to. But anyway, it's about Superman.
Oh Jesus! Yeah, we completely went off topic. So sorry.
No, it's all good. I'm trying
You're
to think.
taking us on a ride, Tony.
You're taking us on a ride, Tony. I'm trying to think if I can think of one more question for Tony. I want to ask Tony a tough one here. Let me think. Okay. What if, Tony, they bring Amy Adams in as Lois Lane for the new Justice League, but it's a different Clark and Superman that she's getting it on with? Is Henry Cavill going to be jealous?
Cavill doesn't care. That guy can get anyone.
Trev, what do you think? Does he have a point?
That's a very serious question. We got a Superman and Lois movie coming out, akin to Lois and Clark.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he might be jealous of all the Loises. He might be, like he's not going to be jealous of all the Supermans, I should say. But,
yeah. Adam in chat says, as long as there is a bathtub scene, I'm cool. They have an open relationship. Oh my god!
How do you feel? Okay, let's on a serious note. How do you feel about like the Man of Steel and like BVS, kind of not having like Lois just knowing the secret identity kind of right away? Like it makes sense that she's a reporter and she knows it right away, but like, how do you guys feel about that? Like moving, like how did you guys feel about that? I should say.
I personally think there's definitely something lost there because part of the crazy. I think there's a really interesting interplay there between the fact that she like looks past Clark and loves Superman. Yeah, I think that's really interesting. But maybe they thought it was problematic or some shit. I don't know. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Was one of Batman's girlfriends in the comics a war correspondent, like
well, like he's had girlfriends that have been like journalists as well. Like Batman '89 is a journalist, right? Kim Basinger is a
veteran who was a journalist that went to other countries to cover the war and stuff like that, like in Vietnam or something like that.
I don't particularly remember. Possible.
He's dated a lot of women in the comics, right? Like he's dated a lot of women.
Yeah, he's dated a lot of women.
I don't know definitively.
He's the honestly. Of the Justice League, he's a player of the group because
it's the Bruce Wayne. Well, it's the Bruce Wayne person. Like he's putting on a show, right? Like he
has to. Yeah.
The part of the thing is he's playing up being the Playboy Bruce Wayne.
Yeah.
That's why you call him a Playboy because he's gallivanting around town, doing all this stuff. But it also serves as like he can go out drinking. Let's say he gets up at like 8:00 at night, goes out drinking, and goes out Batmaning after. But not really drinking. He's drinking water or something.
Yeah. He figures something out like that. Yeah, he's Batman.
Do you guys agree with the Andy Serkis casting for Alfred?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think Andy Serkis will kill it as Alfred. I think he'd be great as Alfred. Yeah.
I honestly kind of wish they kept.
What if they CGI him as the old Alfred from like the Tim Burton Batman?
What if they CGI him to be Caesar from the Apes movies? And Caesar Alfred.
Being Alfred.
Yeah.
Oh Jesus.
Now we're really in the multiverse, boys. But anyways, we're gonna call it there, boys and girls. We're gonna call it there. Right. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for coming to another community stream. Thank you, Tony, for all the questions. Trev, thanks for hanging out, talking some Batman. Thanks everybody in the chat. Absolutely.
Remember, this Wednesday, what's going on?
Chet boys for life. Going up against the real spiel. I don't know, man. You guys are looking pretty hot right now, but
how do I join those trivia games? The trivia.
You gotta become a member, join the Discord.
When we ramp up for season 2, we'll make sure everybody knows about the selection process at that time. We're actually not 100% sure exactly what we are going to do. We know that a lot of the teams that are already in will be back. But yeah, we can add some teams and stuff like that too.
I mean, we got to defend, right?
Oh yeah, there will be a champion.
The reason why I'm asking about the trivia thing is because I can't afford to become a member or don't.
Well, and if you just express your interest, that's we'll try to see if someone can get you, right? Someone can pick you up. Just make sure you express your interest when the next season starts.
You definitely don't have to be a member to be a part of trivia, and nobody.
Go ahead. That was good.
Well, I mean, nobody should have to be a member to enjoy like 99% of what we do.
I was saying a lot of the recruiting happens on there, but like if you express your interest in like these live streams in the comment section and all that kind of stuff.
The Discord member is a different thing. That's totally free. You can just join the
okay. Well, then there you go.
Discord. Yeah. So that you can do, Tony. No problem.
Okay,
Ultimate nullifiers will be ready.
Have a good night, guys.
Yep. Take care, guys. All right, everybody. As I always say, I hope you're having an awesome and a nerdy day, and I'll see you in the next video.
Take care. It's a good ending, Josh.
Thanks. Thanks. I felt like it was pretty good. Hold it in there. Man, Tony, the man with a million questions.
He does. He's got a lot on his mind. I don't know.
He does. No, he's a good dude. He means well.
Yeah.
All right, brother. I'm gonna get out of here.
Yeah, man. Me too. Take it easy.
Take care, brother.